First, we'll do the prayer. I'll do the prayer and then pledge allegiance by Commissioner Wandale. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we humbly come to you, Father, and bring the needs of our people before you and ask you to bless our county through our godly leaders, Father. Again, Father, we ask for courage and wisdom to help guide us through this COVID crisis, Father, to protect, encourage, and heal, Father. In your name we pray. Amen.
Salute, pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It feels good to have almost half of a room crowd.
Chairman, if we could, I know most people have heard this already, but we lost Joe Fogarty recently, and I was just wondering if we could have a moment of silence.
Sure can.
Thank you.
Thank you. First, we have the approval of the agenda, and please note that number 5, District Attorney General Dave Clark and Melissa Miller wants to postpone to January, so we won't be taking that up. We have a motion to approve.
So,
Mr. Chairman. We have a motion by Commissioner Wandale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Yeager.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? And as we do this vote, it's also the roll call too, as well.
Commissioner Wandale. Commissioner Meredith. Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner McCamey.
Aye.
Commissioner Yeager.
Aye.
Commissioner Meade.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott.
aye.
Mr. Chairman Isbell.
We all in attendance. Thank you. Next, we have appearance of citizens. Is anyone out there want to speak to anything that's not on the agenda for tonight? Okay. Next, we have Mayor Frank for the homeless workshop, and Sheila Michael also want to speak during this time. Mayor, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had just done some thinking after our last couple of operations meetings, and also I know I got to the one meeting too early in Rocky Top to hear what you all were working on, but just after sitting down and actually trying to help you all draft the mechanics of what a task force to properly address this issue would look like, it really just hit me that we have a lot of folks that have already been working on this for a very long time, and they already have successful strategies. And maybe it would be best to just get those folks together with us and have a meeting where, and I kind of outlined it in my letter to you all, where we understand their own strategies and where we as a county could partner with the efforts of these organizations. And then I just highlighted some goals maybe of that initial meeting. Second being, understand if we need to develop improved or dedicated communication strategies with these existing agencies. And then understand the gaps in addressing the needs. So obviously they have their own goals and strategies, and then also limited resources for their organizations. So where could, if we identify those gaps, where can we help, fill in or provide assistance? and then also meeting with them to understand the prevalence throughout our county. And then also, if these folks could give us the information to see if we need to embark on our own efforts to address homelessness, which I don't really know that we need to reinvent the wheel. I think we've got some good folks out there like Torch and like Tennessee Valley Coalition. And so I just was offering, Mr. Chairman, if the committee wanted, I would be happy to facilitate such a meeting for us and for you all and do the mechanics and the groundwork of that kind of meeting. But those were my thoughts, Mr. Chairman.
That's a great idea. Do we have a motion to support that?
Yeah, motion to support the mayor.
Okay. Motion, we have a second. Got a second by. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Commissioner
may I
Denver?
ask a question? May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I was wondering if you had further communication with either the sheriff and or Commissioner Vowell as to whether or not we have had an increase in evictions here in Anderson County. I think that's an indication of possible things to come as far as what we may be seeing as far as homelessness.
Commissioner, we actually, Commissioner Val, myself, and along with the mayor, we had a meeting there in Rocky Top and met with the police chief, and the police chief from Rocky Top and met with the police chief from Norris. And so there's some ongoing discussion about that. And then I think probably in this month's meeting, we can answer that probably a little bit better, give you some good numbers.
Okay, well, I know that last time we discussed this, that evictions were not an issue, but the fact that they were having an increase, a sizable increase in repossession of vehicles was kind of a sign that things to come. So thank you, and I will mute my microphone and listen for more.
Thank you very much. Roll, please.
Commissioner Wandale? Commissioner Meredith?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner McCamey?
Aye.
Commissioner Yeager?
Aye.
Commissioner Mead?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Chairman, Isbell?
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, and then the next item I have on the agenda is authorization to pursue a USDA Community Facilities Direct Loan Program for an Anderson County animal shelter. And I have invited to be on the phone with us Kirk Morris with the USDA to answer any questions about this program. Last month, I came to you all with just a general request for some feedback, as we've had difficulty getting grants without an actual commitment. So I came to you with just thoughts about, well, if we pursue a loan and we can show to grant making agencies as well as some nonprofits as well as citizens of the community that we were committed to this, we would have a better opportunity. In speaking with Kirk, there may also be some portion, if we did pursue this route, some portion for a grant in terms, not for construction, but for, Kirk, you might remind me, is it furnishings and equipment?
Equipment, furnishings, computer technology. Basically anything but the brick and mortar of the building, we can do grant dollars potentially on.
Anyhow, this program is for local communities. They are low interest loans, loan programs, loan grant programs. The thing that is really good about them is they have a life of up to 40 years that makes something affordable for the community. And if you'll look back, the Riceville Library used a community facilities program. USDA has been very vital and critical in helping Oliver Springs get there. That was a different branch of fund, or it wasn't the same pot of funding, but it's still a way that they partner with local communities to improve their infrastructure. Did I leave anything out that the commission might want to know about?
Not really. You know, we like I said, our community facility loans. We use those loan and grant dollars to finance several volunteer fire departments up there in Anderson County, working with Medford and Briceville right now. But we finance everything from a small volunteer fire department up to $30 million jails or schools. It's a good program. Right now, our interest rate's 2.125%. Again, that can go up to 40 years on terms. If you pay it off or refinance it, there's no penalty for paying it off early. And it is a process to go through. It takes a few months to get through the loan and grant process as far as underwriting and getting it through our engineers and architects. But we'll do everything we can to help you.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Anderson makes a second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions.
Okay, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Mayor, how much money are you looking to request to borrow?
We don't have full construction documents, so we don't have, let me pull this off the printer. We have the full schematic design, and the full schematic design using some companies in Knoxville that work with Blankenship and Partners. They produced a cost estimate associated with the schematic design. And so the total hard costs are $2,502,000. Those were the estimated. And that includes site work, earthwork, site utilities, the building itself, the kennels, all of that. And then the soft costs, you would have your furniture, fixtures, equipment, graphics and display, geotech soil reports, testing, architectural design fee for the oversight of the construction. So total soft costs are estimated at $300,000. So that's total estimate at 2.8 million, 2.802.
And where is this property located? The letter said there's approximately 5 acres that it's an agreement with the city of Clinton.
Yes. And this actually came through County Commission, and Commissioner Scott, you were serving on Budget Committee at that time, but Operations had a full hearing on that. We entered into the city of Clinton authorized us it's a lease that was approved through Operations up to full commission. If you are heading towards South Clinton across the Green Bridge, you will see a sign there for the industrial park that's there on the left. You take a left there and you'll kind of go back. It's not very far. It's almost at the entrance of the industrial park. There's actually some pasture there. There's a sheep farm kind of to the right. And the property itself abuts where Mr. Hollingsworth is doing the Aspire Park. So I think his kind of goes up on the mountain or the ridge there, but that property is at the foot of the mountain there. It does have infrastructure, which was one of the things that was attractive to us. And then also the city of Clinton received a grant for a dog park. And so it's all in the general vicinity. So we thought that would be a win-win for everyone in the community.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
More like $1. I can't remember, I don't have it in front of me, but it was, Jay might remember, I think it's $1 a year for 20 years with a auto or a renewal for another 20, which a lot of grants require you to have a long term. If you do not own the property, you need to have a long-term lease. That's how we do a lot with TVA, for instance. We have long-term leases with them on their property.
And what is the goal for the actual build?
Well, if we go through the USDA process, it's not a guarantee. And as Kirk, told me, and there's a lot of work that has to be done. There are a lot of approvals to be won. But I guess that would just depend on if we're successful. We're really ready to pull the trigger on the construction documents. We've gone through an extensive process, thanks to donors in the community and commission's backing to walk through that. So I really don't know. I would assume if we were able to get it accomplished, I would assume a construction project would take a year. I guess it also kind of depends on the timing of, when the season is. So when the approval would be, if that makes sense.
Sure it does. And out of curiosity, since we're talking about the animals, I've been watching the website or watching the page on Facebook, and I see that they're tapped out completely right now. They're at full capacity.
Yes.
With the city of Oak Ridge not allowing people to come and view their animals and the way the city does their thing, where are animals being taken to? Are you taking them to Roane County or to foster care, or what happens when it's full? We have I don't even know what the latest count is. I had Brian bring me the folder the other day. So our website had some kind of glitch hit it and it did a reset, and we're still trying to get that fixed. I think I know the last time I did a count, we were at a partnership with over 61 various nonprofit rescues. And basically the folks get on the phone and reach out to these rescue organizations. So we have everyone from SARG to Pit Bull Rescue, just folks all across Tennessee. A lot of times, I don't know if you saw the story where we had the the senior hound dog that we took to Maine through a volunteer who transported that dog, and the owner there in Maine has been posting pictures. So, I mean, a lot of times, Commissioner Scott, it's just getting on the phone and networking, and it's people in the community stepping forward. Right. And like I said, I've been watching the Facebook page. One of the things that, that's why I was bringing it to your attention of them saying that they're full plus a pig. But that because they're so full, I mean, I'm not seeing updates on these photographs of animals, that we just took in too, and this is what they look like. I mean, how it was, at least during the summer months, it was constant. Whereas I was looking at it today and I'm like, well, but the last picture posted prior to this bull or what is it, a bulldog that they took in today, a boxer puppy that they took in today. The next photograph is 3 days ago. It would be good if photos could be put up on a regular basis, a more, constant basis, with hopes that they would move them. Because if someone goes over to PetSmart in Oak Ridge, boom, the kittens are gone in no time flat. Because they're right there, and they're at least posting it on that Facebook page that we've got kittens and they're in Oak Ridge.
Yes, well, and one of the things too is now we have extended hours with the animal control officers, and our folks are more active out there, and sometimes things go in spells as well. So, for instance, our folks worked in conjunction with the sheriff's department on someone who had committed a crime, and there were numerous animals there. So then we try to work on those and tackle that, one or two at a time, because we only have 12 runs for dogs. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. I appreciate the update. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Anderson?
Chairman, and this might be more related to for the homelessness workshop, but thinking about an uptick in probably people needing to give up animals if they're being evicted or losing a job. Do you think maybe that's something we could consider for the workshop, would be inviting some of those nonprofit groups or the animal shelter, animal control personnel to be part of that homelessness workshop, since homeless pets is probably going to be an issue right along with homeless people.
Yes, and we probably, I don't know, I can talk to the team and see if they are, one thing that you all will really appreciate, and I thank you for the support, we were able to move to a electronic platform for reporting. So now we'll be able to provide you reports whenever you want, instead of having to manually go back through the paperwork. We went live on that. I can't remember, all my days are running together now. I can't remember if it was Wednesday afternoon or Thursday. We finished the final training. And one of the things we're going to do there is work with this company to make this also a shelter management program, because we do have a lot of owner surrenders. And with this new program, we'll be able to do a better job of tracking that, and just, with the stroke of a key, be able to produce a report for you that would have some information like that. But I will check with the team to make sure that they're notating if there is a cause of the surrender. But at least we'll be able to give you a little more data for what we're experiencing in the community with animals.
And Mayor, just to give a quick update on that particular post, there are now over 2,800 comments and 16,000 shares. So there's a lot of people that know about Henderson County Animal Shelter, to say the least.
Yes.
And that's in 4 hours.
Well, and I did, I reached out, I submitted a letter with your document, and I reached out to Commissioner Isabel because I wanted to, give you all information as commissioners for you to know that there's community support. But then I also didn't want it to be construed as pressure. And so I pulled back from that. I reached out to Commissioner Isabel just to ask permission in advance, like if I put something out there on the social media, and I made an effort to get a lot of folks. I didn't want to risk folks showing up in person and with what we're dealing with COVID. And then secondly, I just didn't want it to be misconstrued. So if you all do want before Monday's meeting, I can put that call out, just for folks to communicate with you. But I think Commissioner Scott, to your point, you could see that there is a lot of interest and a lot of support in the animal welfare area.
Right. Yeah, there's some of these comments were that they had nearly 100 people stop by wanting to get that dog today. And that's within hours of it being posted. So the word got out. I'm pleased to see that, unlike the city of Oak Ridge, they're promoting the fact that they have animals that need homes. So I'm very happy about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'm certainly going to support this effort for the USDA Communities Facilities Direct Loan. Is it on? Oh, you say push the button though, right? Yeah, it slide up green. Okay. By the way, I like all this IT new equipment. Very nice. First time I've seen it. So yeah, I'm going to support the USDA Community Facilities Direct Loan request, but I heard Mr. Morris, I believe, mention the volunteer fire departments, and I'd certainly like to get with the mayor and pick back up on, in the future, Mayor, with the Claxton request to help rebuild their facility, which they tore down half of it that was out of compliance safety-wise. So maybe that can be in the future, but I plan to support this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do everything I can.
We have a motion by Commissioner McCamey and a second by Commissioner Anderson. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Wandale,
Aye.
Commissioner Meredith,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner McCamey,
Aye.
Commissioner Yeager,
Aye.
Commissioner Mead,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott,
Aye.
Chairman Isbell.
And thank you, Mr. Morris, for being in on the phone call as well, please.
Thank you for having me.
Motion passes. And I need to back up one, and I think we have Sheila and Michael, I think maybe from Torch. Sheila, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to speak on the homeless situation?
We are very pleased to be asked to be a part of the task force. We've been working with the homeless in Anderson County for over 8 years, and we have a lot of the statistics and the information on why, how, what kinds of issues people face. It's a very forward-thinking idea to be expressing concern for the homeless animals, too, because that is an issue that families face when they are evicted, and a lot of times that is a very, very difficult thing for them to address. We have partnered with shelters to take animals in for the families while we're getting them housed. And so we're very, very happy to partner with you and to come up with solutions. We are starting a build in the city of Oak Ridge for temporary housing. And if this particular, the funding is coming from a foundation in Seattle, Washington, that sees our approach as innovative and potentially could become a national model. And so then once we get past the build in the city of Oak Ridge, the next site we're looking into is Rocky Top. And Ridgeview Behavioral Health has already agreed to partner with us to provide case management in Rocky Top. But as always, it's funding that is the that is what keeps us from moving forward more quickly. So we're excited to be a part of the task force. So thank you.
Anybody have any questions of Ms. Michael? Thank you so much for being on the phone call tonight, and thank you for your participation and your willingness to help us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the law director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got two issues for you tonight. One is Iroquois Lane. I want to provide you with some preliminary information on this and then come back next month in January and possibly request your permission to file suit on this. Back several years ago, I brought this to the county commission's attention. A gentleman wanted us to turn over an area of this property that led into the river that was originally assigned by plat as a public access for a boat ramp. The commission decided not to allow that and keep it in the county's hands. As you know, the plat was recorded, and it was part of the roadway, which became property of the county. Shortly thereafter, within a few months, he took the same issue to the planning commission, and they closed the road, which he subsequently had a lawyer prepare a deed from himself and another quitclaim deed to himself and his wife. I believe that's fraudulent. I've talked to his attorney about this. I've told him my concerns. That is intended to be a public boat ramp for the use of that community there. I'm going to provide you with some additional information, but the planning commission did not have the authority to close that county road. If you recall, years ago, the county commission, I believe it was 2004, passed a resolution that allows the county commission only to close roads in this county. And again, it was brought to you at the gentleman's request. The county commission turned it down. He then fell back, went to the planning commission. Planning commission closed the road. He then had an attorney draw up deeds to him, and then he quitclaimed to him and his wife. So he's taken this property and turned it into a garden, with shrubs and rocks where nobody can get access to the lake. It was unimproved. It was never developed into a boat ramp, but again, it was platted to the county as part of the road system. I'm trying to work this out with his attorney, and his attorney believes that we've got a concern here. At first, he thought the planning commission had the authority to close that road, but not. They do not, and I want to bring the details to you in January. If I can't resolve it in the next month, we're going to have to file suit. You may have heard from a couple of the citizens there in this subdivision. They're very upset about this. They bought their homes with it known to them at that time that it had a boat ramp access to the river. So you can understand their frustration with this gentleman that's decided to do this to him, to basically give the land to himself. But I'm not going to ask for any action on this. I just wanted to prepare you for it. If I can't resolve it, I'll get a packet of information to you and come back in January. Any questions on that issue before I move on to the next matter? Okay, the second item I've got for you is the Fireworks Private Act. I sent you out an email first giving you a copy of the Private Act, and it was passed in 47. It's been in existence since that time. You may want to refer this to the Legislative Committee if you so desire. There's a few commissioners that may want to repeal this Private Act in its entirety. And there's a few that will remember our discussions back years ago, I think in '07 and in '10 again, on possibly amending this private act to allow the volunteer fire departments to utilize it as a fundraiser to sell fireworks, basically during 2 periods a year. 2 weeks prior to the July 4th holiday and 2 weeks prior to the 1st of January. So it's up to you. I don't know whether you want to repeal that 1947 private act in its entirety, or if you want to refer this to the legislative committee so we can work out some details about a possible amendment to this private act.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that it be referred to the legislative committee. I think they would be better at figuring out the wording as opposed to at least me.
I second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
A motion and a second.
Discussion?
Commissioner Yeager had his light lit up, actually had it lit up first.
That's all right. I was going to refer to, so we're fine.
Okay, Commissioner Meade.
Yeah, just for a little bit of background, the private act was done in 1947. Makes all fireworks illegal, even sparklers or anything, okay? But then after it goes through all that and gives, you can get a $400 fine and 11 months in jail for violating it and stuff like that, okay? It goes on to say the following: that persons, firms, corporations conducting public displays of pyrotechnics, okay, nothing in this act shall be construed as applying to them. Okay, and so, and then in the state law, the very last thing in state law, it says that this chapter, the entire chapter on fireworks from Tennessee Code annotated, which is 68-104-101, states that this chapter shall not affect the validity of any private act. Okay, and this allows the fireworks really only during specific holiday periods. Our private act allows a broad spectrum of people that are doing public functions to do fireworks demonstrations. I will say that the state law invokes very significant fees and licenses, and it also has very significant safety measures that have to be met, and inspections and fire safety stuff that does not exist within our private act. So I'm not sure. This law says it doesn't change any private act. Our private act is more lenient than what this is. But there's an awful lot of good safety stuff that's invoked by the state law now. Yeah, but it appears that law doesn't apply to us. But I think everybody doing fireworks around here for a long, long time has been actually following the state law, getting the $1,000 permits through the state fire marshal stuff. So it really comes down to, if we just repeal the whole act, then we go under the state law just as it's written, because it would no longer be covered by a private act. If we did something to keep this private act, it would give us much more control over fireworks displays that might end up being outside the dates of these specific holidays that it's allowed in the state law. That's kind of where we're going. And I am the chair of the legislative committee, so I'll be glad to help work on this. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background, because our current private act starts off sounding like it just completely outlaws everything. Then it says, however, in one of the last paragraphs, it doesn't apply to persons, firms, or corporations conducting private displays of pyrotechnics by contract or arrangement with any state fair, patriotic assembly, or similar public functions. So that starts getting to be, what qualifies as a public function. A lot of things would qualify it if it's being done publicly. Anyhow, so we just have to weigh that and then make a recommendation as to which direction we should go. Thank you.
We have a motion by Commissioner Scott, seconded by Commissioner Meredith, in the legislative committee. Any other discussion? Ask Jay a question. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jay, would we need to sanction something different or have a different private act to give the fire departments, if we decide to go that route in legislative committee, to give the fire departments kind of a monopoly on it? Because it seems like it only would work as a fundraiser for them if they're the only ones that are allowed to sell fireworks in the county.
Yes, sir. It's an amendment to the private act. You would keep the prohibition in place and then make some adjustments to it to allow the volunteer fire departments to sell, and then some seasonal use of fireworks. But Commissioner Mead's right. Our private act is very broad. If you'll read it, it's talking about manufacturing, storage, all kinds of stuff in there. So we'd have to go back and amend a couple of sections of the private act. We've done all this legwork before when this issue came up. I believe it was twice, 07 and 10. But we've actually got the resolution for county commission. It passed, I believe, one time, and then it by 2/3, but failed this second time by 2/3. But yeah, it can be accomplished, sir, by amendment of the existing private act.
Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wandell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meredith?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner McCamey?
Aye.
Commissioner Yeager?
Aye.
Commissioner Mead?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott?
Aye.
Chairman Isbell?
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for you tonight. Do wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Next, ACMS Director. Nathan, are you on there?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. By request at Budget Committee, they wanted me to come to Operations Committee and talk a little bit about a schedule change that we're looking to move forward within our organization. This is for information purposes for this committee. There wasn't any actionable item at Budget Committee, but members wanted me to come to Operations and speak about it as well. So sometime now, we've been talking internally in our department about making improvements, advancements, and one of the things that continues to get brought up is in regards to looking at schedule. The current schedule we are on is called a 2448, and we've been on that schedule since early 80s. Actually, Commissioner McCamey would know better than I. He made the change away from their old schedule in the 70s to this current schedule we're on today. But for our department, that schedule just continues to be a topic of conversation and trying to find a better schedule for our staff to meet the needs, continue to meet the needs of the county, and also to continue to meet the needs for our organization. So this has been a subject that's been kind of discussed quite a bit internally and also externally. And we keep coming back to this 2472 schedule. That's where we keep landing on. We brought it up 2 years ago, try to get some funding to move that schedule. Since then, continue to work on it to try and make it a lot more manageable for our department to make this change. And through that process, we were able to come up with it was called a modified schedule. And this wasn't necessarily something I came up from scratch. Learned from a ambulance director in South Carolina that has this schedule or something very similar to it. It's called a modified 2472. And basically, we're able to decrease the number of staff, additional staff we would need to move to this schedule. So that really decreased quite a bit when you're talking about paying for the schedule and budget. And so through those modifications and other modifications, we're going to be able to make this transition to this new modified 2472 schedule within what Anderson County EMS already provides. So there wasn't an action item. It was passed during the budget process at the end of last fiscal year to bring this back up in November. So we were following through with that at the November Budget Committee. And then they request that we come to the operations and talk a little bit about it. So included was the handouts that I submitted to Budget Committee, just kind of showing a comparison of what we're looking at, kind of breaking it down in a few different ways. Some of the biggest things, our current schedule, our staff averages 56 hours a week. With the new schedule, we'll transition to April 12th is the target for the transition. It brings it down to 45 hours a week. So really much closer to a traditional work schedule of 40 hours a week as opposed to the 56. That was a big motivating factor. You know, we continue to recruit. We've done well over the years to continue to keep our units staffed. But Tennessee continues to have issues. Something I shared earlier in our purchasing committee was a letter from the Tennessee Ambulance Service Association that they're statewide, several services experiencing significant staffing issues. That TASA, Tennessee Ambulance Service Association, is actually moving to make a state EMS rule change to bring back ambulance drivers, non-medically staffed personnel to operate on an ambulance as opposed to a medically staffed person to staff an ambulance because they just can't find the staff in some areas. There are other requirements. It's not a true ambulance driver, but the specifications of it is very close to what we experienced a long time ago. I'm not necessarily a fan of that. I understand the need. I understand the ambulance services that are struggling, but I think that's kind of a step back when we start taking medical requirements of staffing an ambulance out. So we continue to face that. Less people getting into the profession than there used to be. All kinds of that. As a matter of fact, I didn't share this at purchasing, but the governor signed some emergency orders that, although it hasn't gone to the state EMS rules, right now we could put ambulance drivers on ambulances with emergency rules that the governor put in. So I think that's kind of a leading up to that we may see that change in the future. So there's the first document in your packet there showed some breakdowns, different ways. This does cause an increase on hourly pay for the staff, but it has a decrease on annual pay based on the hours dropping that they work in a year. So we tried to maintain that to continue to have that competitive advantage when we're trying to recruit and retain staff. The second document was just giving you example from that South Carolina EMS service that I was speaking with, plus the contact information for their director there. Just giving you information. They changed to this modified schedule in 2013, but prior to that, they were very similar to us in pretty much every way of the staffing. They had a statewide staffing shortage in South Carolina. They were dealing with vacant shifts and recruiting there, high use of mandatory overtime, which we continue to experience that here. So it very similar to ours, but since then, it has significantly improved. But even the director there, Director Watkins, said, this is not a magic wand that just takes all your problems away, but it has a significant improvement overall for the staff, for the department, really being able to continue to focus more so on making the system better for the community, for our patients, and advancements there. And then the last page was just kind of a breakdown at that time to date of what we've seen in our department, just looking at the number of people that have left Anderson County EMS. What we're seeing, we've had 15 paramedics and EMTs leave since January 1. 6 of those went to work outside of EMS. So they weren't all leaving to go work for another EMS service. 4 of those went to work for another EMS service. 2 of them were terminated or left during an investigation. 1 went to work for fire department. 1 of them moved out of state and 1 retired. And then you saw the breakdown of the 8 paramedics and 7 EMTs. So, over the last 4 years, our turnover rate's been about 27.5%, and the industry national average is 29%. So we're still kind of hovering underneath that, although I'm not happy with that percentage. I think a big part of that is continuing to make some improvements, advancements like this schedule should bring that percentage down. So ultimately, that was kind of the information that we talked for the most part at Budget Committee. But I didn't know if there was maybe some members on this committee that would have some questions as well.
Got any questions for Nathan Sweet? Seeing none, thank you very much, Nathan.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
COVID-19 update, and we've got the usual PowerPoints, but we also have Mr. Turner from Madison County Health Department. And go ahead, Mr. Turner. We'll just let you lead it off there, then we'll go over all these PowerPoints.
Okay, good evening. It's good to be with you tonight. I was asked by Chair Isbell to talk about the vaccine update. I don't want to bore you, but basically because of the limited supply in vaccine, this is going to be released in a tiered system. You have basically tier 1A1, tier 1A2, tier 1B, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. Tier 1A1 basically consists of your hospitals, freestanding emergency clinics, home care. Basically, it'll be the staff that have direct patient care in those hospitals. Home care staff, whether they're a sitter, it will include the COVID-19 mass testing site staff. That would be the testing staff here at the health department. That would include both the testers as well as those that are have direct patient contact, taking assessment forms, etc. Student healthcare providers, that would include colleges and universities as well as the K through 12 system. That would basically be your school nurses. Then it includes the staff and residents of long-term care facilities and first responders with direct patient exposure. And the first responder group would include law enforcement, emergency management services, as well as fire and rescue squad. What we have done locally in terms of that is we contacted our local EMA. They provided us a list of the captains and chiefs and that fall into those categories. We have submitted that to our regional office. They are in the process of preparing or have sent out to some a letter to those captains and chiefs asking them to further sub-prioritize their group based on being over the age of 65 years old, having cancer, some chronic kidney disease, COPD, a solid organ transplant, obesity with a BMI greater than 30, serious cardiac disease, not including high blood pressure, sickle cell disease, and also diabetes, whether it be type 1 or 2. We anticipate that vaccine for that group will possibly arrive as early as next week. depending on the circumstances. In order for us to start distributing that to that Tier 1A1 group, as well as the subdivided high priority, high risk population within that group, number one, we have to receive the vaccine, and number two, we have to have the emergency use authorization before we can actually start distributing that. So we anticipate that would probably happen. We're hoping to be able to start Wednesday of next week, if not Monday, December 28th. Phase 1A2 would include all other healthcare workers with direct patient exposures. That would include like your private providers, your dentist in the community, outpatient specialty providers, pharmacy and staff, patient transport, outpatient therapists, urgent visit centers, and then environmental services, oral health providers, I mentioned before, behavioral health providers. Then moving on to phase 1B, it would be adults with 2 or more high risk conditions, the first being age 65 or greater. And again, I've already mentioned some of those in that category, and it would also include like your immunocompromised, dementia, liver disease, and then phase 2 would then include your critical infrastructure workers. That would be teachers K through 12, school staff, and childcare workers. All ages with comorbidity, underlying conditions with moderate risk, one condition. Healthy individuals, ages less than 65. Actually greater than 65, I'm sorry. Congregate care residents and staff, and correctional residents and staff. And then phase 3 and 4, phase 3 would be young adults, children, workers in industries, entities important to society with higher risk of exposure. And then phase 4 would be opened up to anyone not already vaccinated. To give you a time frame on that, I'm not able to do that at this point, but looking at that, going back to phase 1A, the Tennessee Department of Health is working with Walgreens and CVS and a contract with them to actually provide the vaccination in most of your long-term care facilities and assisted living. Some of those that don't have an agreement with Walgreens or CVS, the health department, either local or regional strike team staff will be assisting with those facilities. But right now we are basically looking to begin receiving vaccine next week. And if we receive before Wednesday and we receive the emergency use authorization, we will then begin our vaccination process on Wednesday of next week. Otherwise, again, we will start December 28th, Monday, December 28th. I didn't know, we just received the press release. We have been testing here at the health department drive-through 5 days a week. For the month of December, we are averaging 317 tests per day. We tested 397 today. And next week, we will continue to offer some form of testing 5 days a week, but we will only offer our drive-through on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we anticipate vaccinating on those days, and we will be providing here at the health department. It's called an Everlywell test. It's a self-test. You have to be 18 years old or older. You have to have internet access and also an email address in order to be eligible for that testing. And we will do that as a pull-up into the parking lot. They will be instructed on how to use that, and then it will be a self-test, results back within 3 to 4 days. So that's kind of where we are in terms of moving forward with the vaccination plan. And just as a, if I can find my note here, the vaccine plan for the state of Tennessee was developed in partnership with the Tennessee state government and the Tennessee COVID-19 pandemic vaccine stakeholder group. And it was based on guidance from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine's framework for equitable allocation of COVID-19 vaccine, and the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. And again, because of receiving limited, Tennessee will be offering that in a tiered phase process. Any other, I'd be happy to address any questions about the vaccine. Just to give you a quick update, if I can pull up the data here. As of 3 o'clock reported today, Anderson County has a total confirmed and probable of 4,205 cases. We have a total of 839 active cases. We've had a total, unfortunately, of 40 deaths. And we have inactive or recovered cases, 3,326. The last information that I looked at, I tried to pull it up this evening, and they must be updating it because the data would not pull up. Anderson County is, according to the White House data, is considered in the red. That basically means that the positivity rate is greater than 10%. And what I looked at yesterday, Anderson County was 17.8% over the last 7 days. And basically what that means is, of those testing, 17.8% are positive. And that was over the last 7 days. Any other information, I'll be happy to try to get for you, or we'll try to entertain questions.
Questions to Mr. Turner, and thank you very much. Very concise information. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Turner, according to the newspaper from the 11th of March earlier this year, you said corona worries? No, it's a cold. This is obviously not a cold. Of the 800 plus that are active right now, how many of those people are hospitalized?
I don't have that specific data because as I stated, the information I was trying to pull up would not come up. The data that I have access does not have that number on it. I'm sorry. And I think I was misquoted in that paper, but thanks for bringing that up.
So our next full commission meeting is next Monday. Are you able to come to the full commission meeting and let us know where things stand as to how many active cases there are known in Anderson County? How many people are hospitalized from Anderson County? I mean, I'm constantly, hearing from people saying that, this is crazy. This is crazy is about the calmest way I can phrase it. I'm not happy about there not being a mask mandate, at least in the city of Oak Ridge right now, because we have so many people that come through, whether it's to go to the lab or the plants or out to Windrock. We're a major thoroughfare. The folks in the city of Oak Ridge, for the most part, really could care less what's going on anywhere else, but they're mad. They're really, really mad over the fact that we don't have a mask mandate throughout the whole city. On the west end of town, they're able to say you have to wear your mask, and that's only because that ties into Roane County. But I get a lot of messages. I keep people up to date on Facebook. Shortly after 3:00, I'll post the date, how many cases are active, how many deaths are to date, and just to tell people, just wear the damn mask. Putting it lightly. I mean, that's the only way that, they're coming back and at least saying, don't go shopping here because nobody's wearing a mask that works there. And I, for one, am doing any shopping that I need done in Knoxville because I feel more confident there, and I avoid people. I'm staying my 6 feet plus in distance, but I feel more comfortable if I need to go get groceries because people are taking the time to sanitize. They're taking it seriously over there for the most part. They need to be kept up on these numbers. We really do.
Okay. I'll be happy to provide that information. I'll see what I can find on the hospitalizations. In terms of the data, the Tennessee Department of Health has made it very accessible by going to tn.gov/health and then clicking on the yellow gold bar. And it pulls, and when you click on the map, you can look at any county in the state of Tennessee. You can look, there's another website, COVID-19, let me find it, covid19.tn.gov, and you can pull up a dashboard for Anderson County, which I cannot get to pull up at this point. And you can look at the different counties surrounding Anderson County or any county in the state. And it also has a lot of information about prevention symptoms. And it also is downloadable data sets that you can pull off of that website as well.
Okay. Well, I'd appreciate it if you would come back. I would appreciate it if you'd be back next Monday to explain to people on a broader scale. And it's simply because, at least in the city of Oak Ridge, they're watching the city council meeting right now.
What time is that meeting Monday?
It's at 6.
Will that be also via Go Meeting?
It will be. It'll be actually be at 6:30.
6:30, okay.
6:30.
Can Ann Pruitt or somebody send me the link to that meeting? And if I could request to be on the top of the agenda, I know y'all have a lot of important work, but if I could request to kind of be towards the top of the agenda, that would be great.
Anderson's here. He'll respond to
Yeah,
that.
that's fine. We'll make, either get you in with the public portion, or we'll add you if it's not too late. We'll get you as early as we can.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson, and thank you, Chairman Isbell.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening. I'm going to sign off if there's nothing else.
Got one more thing for you, Mr. Turner.
Okay.
Later on in the PowerPoint, the very last part, it talks about the flu, the common flu that we've had before, how the numbers are actually down. Have you got any information on that? And, that probably leads to, washing our hands, social distancing, wearing a mask.
I don't have any numbers handy. I will see if there's something that I can find for Monday night's meeting, if I can get access to.
And this is just information going forward, once we get behind this crisis as we go on later in years, about how to deal with the flu. Anything else?
In terms of that, Mr. Isabel, the recommendations, wash your hands. We recommend and advocate the flu shot, and we continue to do that, and it's free at the health department.
I think that's a big thing too, because I think everybody's getting a flu shot now, more so than ever. Again, thank you, Mr. Turner. Then we'll continue on with the PowerPoint. And I'll give thanks to the mayor and to Kim Jeffers Whitaker for helping put this PowerPoint together. It's very lengthy, so we're just going to skip through part of it. And this is some of the stuff that Mr. Turner was talking about from Tennessee Department of Health. And if you can see on there, it gives all the COVID-19 vaccination program, the playbook, and all. It's got all the framework and all that to it. And if you go on, scroll on up a little bit, you'll get down to about the safety of the vaccine. Okay, right there it is. Hold on. The safety of the COVID-19 vaccines is a top priority. The U.S. vaccine safety system ensures that all vaccines are safe as possible. Now, for the commissioners that tuned in to the White House Council on the briefing that they had every 2 weeks, they talked about extensively about how safe that this new vaccine is. And because of the new technology and things that we have now versus 10 years ago, how we have been able to achieve through Operation Warp Speed about getting these things safely. And as you see the different vaccines, you'll see some that have to be frozen, to minus 100 degrees. And I think some of the other vaccines coming out is not have to be frozen in that regard, because when you start getting into the rural areas and, probably some of the other countries, it's not going to be as feasible. Just move on, please. And then again, like he was talking about, this is what you find on that website for Tennessee Health. It gives you all the doses, anticipated doses on December 15th and all that. You would just go on to the next COVID-19 vaccination plan. And this is one that Kim helped us put together. All right, scroll on to the table of contents. Well, there you go. So this is a good one right here, State of Tennessee coordination efforts. If you can read that. And what we'll do is we'll send this out in an email to everybody, because there's like 56 pages of this. You see Anderson, can you highlight Anderson there? Or can you bring that up? That's okay. I think everybody can probably see that. Let's just move on through this pretty quick. Again, that's the allocation phases that we saw earlier. And this is the phased approach to the COVID-19 vaccines. Like I say, Mr. Turner went through a lot of this. And all this can be found on Tennessee Department of Health's website. Again, it's the phased approach, the critical population, as what Mr. Turner was talking about. And that'll do it. And if you see the source down there on the very bottom for the people at home, if you want to look this up, and this will give you everything in writing that we talked about this meeting tonight. Sometimes it's a little easier to go by seeing that right there instead of trying to hunt it down on the Tennessee Department of Health. Okay, then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, and this one is one about, is the decreased influenza activity during the COVID-19 pandemic, United States, Australia, Chile, and South Africa. And it goes through there and gives a lot of information about that and how the morbidity rate is down quite significantly. The rates of the flu is down quite significantly, and that's to do, you know, with the flu shot and with the keep your hands clean and wearing the mask and the proper distancing. And all that amounts to lower rates of the actual flu. And I think that's another 64-page report. There's a good chart right there. The morbidity and mortality weekly report. You'll see that, see the drastic changes. Okay. And again, we'll send that out on an email version to all the commissioners, so you'll have to look at. And thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions about that? Or anything else on the COVID-19 update? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Meredith.
Yes, Commissioner Meredith.
Thank you. As many of you all know, we lost a colleague, County Commissioner Alderson, former commissioner, about 3 weeks ago. Tough, but Mark was a great guy, former chairman of that commission for years, chaired many committees, a very good friend of mine. I would like to make a motion that we put his portrait in the commission room, because as some of you may know, he actually served as mayor for a short stint. I don't recall the exact year. And I just feel like it would be appropriate. He did an excellent job and he was a great commissioner. So I would like to move that we put his portrait in the back of our commission room there, hung in the exact order it should be. So I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second it. Okay, I second by Commissioner Wandale, and I agree with you, Commissioner Meredith. He was a great leader. He was always there willing to help out, and he was a close friend as well. We have a motion second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wandale, Commissioner Meredith,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner McCamey,
Aye.
Commissioner Yeager,
Aye.
Commissioner Mead,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott,
Aye.
Chairman Isbell.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, Commissioner Meredith. Commissioner
Thank you,
Anderson.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just got a couple things that have been brought up recently. Where the new housing development on Sinking Springs Road, and this is kind of right on the edge of District 2 and District 3, but I was just wondering if we could follow up with the building codes office. If the developers are, I know they probably put up a bond, some type of bond for the roads or maintaining that, but I've had some complaints that there's been a lot of mud and things tracked out through there. So if we could just kind of follow up with them and make sure that they're doing whatever daily or weekly cleaning that they need to do in that development. I know right now they're kind of slowed down with construction because of the weather and everything, but that was one thing. The second item, the sewage treatment plant on Buffalo Road. I've had several complaints about that, and I've reached out to the Anderson County Water Authority and a couple of the board members, and it's been addressed a couple times, but it still seems to be a real problem there for some of the residents. And I don't know if we could do some referral motions to that or just bring that to the department's attention. I would appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to reach out to the Water Authority. And then also, I do know, are we talking about the very large development there? Okay. I do know that the department does inspect, and I think they even had worked with them on some of the stormwater issues. It might be, just with the weather that's happened, they need to follow back up. But I'll get back with you and send a follow up.
Thank you. And I know that probably exacerbates the issue that was going on a little further down the road with the Gamble Farm. I hadn't talked to them recently. We've not had a lot of rain, but I'm sure that affects them as well. Thank you.
I think you remember there was a older problem over there in your district. Haven't heard anything about that lately. Is that better or?
Still occasionally. There's just a lot of factors to it, but it still happens. I still get calls. And in addition to those calls, I've been getting calls for Buffalo Road. And of course, Chairman Anderson taking care of that area. But I don't know. I still have questions about the Anderson County Water Authority and how this commission can have some type of direct link to them, because it seems it's unfair to the people that pay the taxes and pay their water bills. They don't really have have an outlet to address concerns other than to go to a board meeting, which is once a month, I think. And no disrespect to Anderson County Water Authority, but we need a process that works for the people in those areas when there's an issue where they can get a hold of somebody. I think the only option right now is you call the water authority, leave a message on the answer machine, or sometimes you might pick up somebody. But I think it's something that needs to be looked at. Maybe Chairman Anderson will have better look at it. And I'm happy to make a motion of some sort if we want to move it down the road to some committee, but I don't know if it's this committee that would handle that or not.
Back up at operations next month. Gives time to think about it and see what we can move on and see what the mayor comes up with.
I'll make a motion to address the Anderson County Water Authority sewage treatment facilities, Sinking Springs, and let's start with that one since it's Buffalo. Sorry, Buffalo's. Yes, there you go. Thank you. I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and second. Discussion on the motion. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wandale,
Aye.
Commissioner Meredith,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner McCamey,
Aye.
Commissioner Yeager,
Aye.
Commissioner Meade,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott,
Aye.
Chairman Isbell. Everybody.
Business. Any old business?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner McCamey.
is Jay Yeager still with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Hey, Jay, do you want to give us an update on the property purchase there at East Wolf Valley?
Absolutely. We've got a contract back. I think both myself and the mayor reviewed it. We sent it to the purchasing commission today. They approved it. The budget committee, I contacted Robbie, asked them to approve a $5,000 check, earnest money. The contract will be on your under my report, I assume, on the county commission agenda for Wednesday at noon and for next Monday's meeting. But that's where we're at. Looks good. Jack Armstrong, who's the real estate agent's been the liaison between us and the owners, been doing a good job keeping us posted. He just sent an email to us within the past couple of days, just checking on it. But I think we've got a very good deal. Commissioner McCamey and the mayor have done a wonderful job on this, and I'm excited. I told the purchasing commission today it's a great piece of property, and I hope it'll serve our citizens in that area for years to come. We'll get rid of that liability from pulling out from Peak Station on 25W, and plus a very substandard parcel there that's nowhere near big enough for us to do what we want to do. And we've seen that recently with the suspension of single stream recycling there. So if you get a chance, go by and take a look at this property. I'm sure you'll be impressed with it. I don't think we're going to need to do a whole lot of work on it. And again, I think it'll be a true asset to the citizens of this county for years to come. But thank you again, Commissioner McCamey, for all your work. Commissioner Fritz, Commissioner Wandell, and certainly the mayor for everything you've done on this project. It's wonderful. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Robert. Anything else? There's one thing that I've got, and I mentioned this in person, just found out about it again. There's a stretch of 116 there that starts at junction 330. And there's about 40 customers, AT&T customers that's affected by this, and most of them are elderly. And what's happened is they've stole the phone lines. This makes the third time, probably within 6 weeks, that they've stole like 600 to 800 feet of phone cable. And when they do that, that puts all these people that, I mean, that's their only source of communication because there's no internet, there's nothing but the landline phone. And we've got some elderly women that live there by themselves and have one of these lifeline things, you know, that they wear on them. Well, there's no way for them to communicate with anybody. The sheriff's office has been up there. AT&T is really getting frustrated because they're keep putting 600, and this cable line is like 2 inches thick. So you can imagine the cost. Now they're going to do a long-term fix, put new poles and all that there. But in the interim, what these people are doing is they're hurting these people up there. I mean, it's their own people that they're hurting. You know, it's just, I don't know what we can do other than hopefully somebody will tell us who's behind this so we can put an end to it. Because it's just hurting, you know, all the people up there. There's no way for them to communicate. But if anybody's got any information, please reach out to somebody and let us know.
Do we have,
Mr. Anderson.
do we have, what are the laws as far as prosecuting the people that buy that scrap material? I mean, do they have to produce a driver's license to sell that usually, or does it get held? Like, is there a way to kind of destroy the market for that?
They do. There's when they go in, they have to give a driver's license and they don't get paid on the spot. The only way they'd get paid on the spot is like there's a licensed electrician. But what they're probably doing, because that phone cable is so small, they're probably, you know, melting the case off of it, maybe melting the copper itself into different things. But we probably need a source to get out to our local scrap yards that this is going on, because all the ones I deal with, they don't want no part of anything is stolen. Believe me. Anything else come for this committee? And we have enough people here. Do we have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion. Yeah. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great and safe week. Thanks.